A number of years ago, I ran across a Celtic theologian by the name of John O'Donohue. His writings were inspirational, and I share some of those on Fridays on my Facebook page. There was something about his writing and his teaching that resonated with where I was at the time. Here at last was someone who understood how I was putting together the faith, who shared some of the insights I did, although they were somewhat unorthodox. I flipped to the back page of the book that I was reading by him, and there was a picture of him, and it was very obvious he was about my age, somewhere in his 50s, I would guess. Here was somebody I could talk to. With the miracle of the internet, I'm sure I could track him down and get an address, and we could correspond, perhaps even have conversation, and maybe on one of his U.S. tours, I could actually meet him. It was exciting. So I looked up his biography, and there was a blurb that popped up. It seems that he had died 2 months earlier. I was devastated. Here was just one more in a long line of teachers and prophets that I had discovered over the years or had been taught in school who were now dead, who had left me. It was frustrating. So many questions and conversations I wanted to have, but they were gone. As I've gotten more distant from that time, I've begun to realize that people like John O'Donohue and others that I have read over the years and countless teachers have actually paved the way for me, and in their deaths have set me free to be my own kind of teacher, to explore their wisdom, but also to move forward and pursue new thoughts in new directions. It's strange how even in death, they have such a powerful influence, setting me free to be who I'm called to be. One of the lines in John's telling of the story of Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead that is perhaps the most powerful of all the lines, the memorable lines in that story, is the last line, kind of the punchline. We get caught up in Martha's comment to Jesus, "If you had only been here, my brother would not have died." Or Jesus announcing that he is the resurrection and the life. Or the comment that, "Lord, he's been in the tomb 4 days, he's going to stink." Or even Jesus' command to Lazarus, "Lazarus, come out." But that final line, when Jesus turns to the crowd and says, "Unbind him and let him go." Now there's a line. There's the truth about the community of faith. Jesus raises from the dead, but it is the community that sets the newborn free. In the waters of our baptism, Jesus raises us to new life and promises us the gift of the resurrection through his death and resurrection. But it is the community of faith that nurtures that budding faith, that new life, who instructs us, guides us, prays for us, walks with us as mentors and friends, as spiritual guides. that we might be unbound and set free. I don't know what heaven's like. I pray to God it's not sitting around plucking on a harp string for all eternity. But whatever it is, I truly believe that that communion of saints that we come this day to remember is with us in far more of an intimate way than sitting up in some kind of ecclesiastical ghetto, doing their own thing, but to continue to be intimately connected with us, not just in our memories, but in some kind of a more powerful way. I believe they watch over us. They pray for us. They continue to impart wisdom to us as we remember and as we are reminded. During this time of COVID and all of the attendant issues around it, it has been that communion of saints that has given me hope on those days where I become very despondent about the future of the church. I remember those early saints of grace that were so instrumental in helping shape me as pastor, who were so forgiving of the early mistakes that I made, who taught me time and time again what it means to be graced by God and by them. They reminded me why I was called to be pastor and how to continue to do the work that I've been called to do. But not only those saints of grace, but also the other saints, the ones we know their names for, that we remember in litanies and on commemoration days. Those saints that have marked the church throughout the centuries, who have left their legacy written in liturgies and textbooks and biographies. They too have given me hope in the midst of some very hopeless times. In many ways, they continue to unbind me and set me free from myself, that I might live in faith and grace. And let us not forget the saints that gather today around us, the living saints, those washed in the waters of baptism, who walk with us, guide us. They are our friends, our comforters, our guides, our companions on the journey. They too continue to set us free as that community of faith, that we might be what God has called us to be. And so on this day, we give thanks for all the saints who have gone before us and those that gather around us this day, that we may indeed continue to be set free and to live into this new life that God has promised all of us. Give thanks for those whose faith is firm when all around seems bleak. On God's good promise they rely, so while they live and when they die, how forcefully they speak. The strong who once were weak. Give thanks for those whose hope is clear beyond mere mortal sight, who seek the city God has planted, the true eternal promised land, and steer on toward the light, a beacon ever bright. Give thanks for those whose love is pure, a sparkling precious stone. They show thy what they say and do, an inward beauty warm and true, for God's concerns they own. God's love through them is known. Give thanks for saints of ages past and saints alive today. Though often by this world despised, their hearts by God are richly prized. Give thanks that we may say, we share their pilgrim way.